The Bears just got a triple dose of good news. In this video, I'm going to tell you, based on the latest news, 3 reasons why the Bears fans out there should be overly hyped about this Rams matchup. You should be over the moon about it. You should be pumped about it. I'm going to tell you why in just a second. Hit subscribe if you're a Bears fan, or if you're looking for anything NFC North related. That's what we're doing on this channel. That's me and the boys out there, and we got to talk about this organization because I did a deep dive today on the 2 organizations that we're talking about, the Rams and the Chicago Bears, and I'll be honest with you guys, they're 2 organizations going in completely different directions. One of them is trending up. One of them is trending down. I'm going to illustrate what I mean, and there's a lot of points here, but stick around because I've got 3 different segments that you're going to want to listen to. I think that's going to have you hyped about this game, but let's start with this one, okay? 2 organizations heading in totally different directions. Let's talk about, of course, the quarterback situation, the contract situation that these 2 teams are situated with right now. You got the Chicago Bears, who have obviously Caleb Williams on a much cheaper contract because he's still on that rookie contract. I don't have to go into details on that. And you've got Matthew Stafford on the other end of that contract, and Stafford himself, who barely began the season because of a back injury, seemed miraculous, by the way. I won't go into what kind of ayahuasca, darkness retreat kind of things he must have been doing back there to try and make it on the field, but he's been electric this season for the most part. Things have kind of started to shift. We'll talk about that in a later segment. But the bottom line is you got an old quarterback in one organization, and they've got a real problem on their hands. And how many organizations have we seen over the years that thought they had the guy and didn't have the guy? Yes, I'm talking to Bears fans, so I know you're looking in the mirror right now when I say something like that out loud, and I apologize. But listen, here's the thing about this organization, okay? You got an overrated and an underrated situation happening here. Here's the actual win percentage based on who was game time favorites throughout the game, okay? So when you look at the Chicago Bears, they are way above that blue line, which would be the percentage of game time favored and the actual win percentage of that team, right? The Chicago Bears way overperforming what, let's just say, the world thinks they're going to be able to do based on previous analytics. And the Los Angeles Rams on the opposite end of the spectrum. All the data says the Rams should be winning. Why aren't they winning? All the data says the Bears shouldn't be winning. Why are they winning? And it has something to do, I think, with the direction these 2 organizations are heading in. One heading up, one heading down. I'll keep going to illustrate my point further. Here's the Chicago Bears on offensive EPA gained on 3rd down. 3rd down's the money down. You know that. And you got the Bears on there. I think it's 8th or 9th. I don't know. I should have made that circle a little bit tighter there. But the Bears in a top 10 offensive EPA gained on 3rd down. The Rams not. Now, just a reminder, because Rams fans will tell you this, and I respect him. My dad was a diehard Rams fan. Like, I get it. But Rams fans will tell you, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, and they'll just go boom, 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 boom through all the names of all the individual greatness on their team. But on money downs, where are they at? Not even middle of the pack. We'll keep going, though. Okay, you can call it middle of the pack. Let's call it middle of the pack. That's fair, right? Bears are top 10. We keep going, okay? Trending up versus peaked, okay? The Rams at the top of this list, which is where you want to be, sacks taken on 3rd down. Now, obviously, they've done very well. Now, their offensive EPA is not great, but they have done really well not taking sacks, okay? So that's something. Maybe that's because they're giving up and running the ball sometimes. There's a lot of factors that go into a sack, whereas the Bears are in a position that I note because I remember last season, and so do you Bears fans. I'm sure you do remember last season. They're 7th in the NFL this year in sacks taken on 3rd down. What a turnaround. What a reversal from last season to this season. Wow. This team cares about protecting the ball more. This team protects Caleb Williams better, and this team is smarter about how they handle 3rd downs and keeping Caleb Williams. And to be fair, sometimes Caleb Williams is the brilliance, and he's the reason they're not getting sacked. That happens a lot of the time. So all of that being said, these are trends that I'm seeing from last year to this year that we got to pay close attention to. Now, I said the word peaked. In order for the Rams to have peaked, they have to be going down. And that's kind of the point of the next segment. Before we do that, though, comment below which of these teams you think is going to be better in 2 years. Be honest. I know that you're obviously going to be biased. You're a Bears fan, whatever. But seriously, truly, honestly, remove the fan base nature, remove the bias for a second. On paper, even. You look at these two teams. You see where Stafford's going. He's on his way to retirement very soon. That's just my honest opinion. His back has been getting worse year after year. He's getting banged up more, and we're seeing what you see with older quarterbacks where things start to trail off toward the end of the season, that they're okay to go. Like, remember when Brett Favre kept saying, "Oh, I'm going to retire," and then the summer would roll around and his body's moving a little more loosely. He's like, "No, I can still go. I can still go." And he kept kind of pulling that on the Green Bay Packers there. It's kind of that sort of thing where I feel like you see the body starting to trail off toward the end of the season because they just don't have it anymore. Aaron Rodgers, another good recent example. Let me know genuinely, honestly, in 2 years, who do you think is going to be a better team? The Chicago Bears or the Los Angeles Rams? I mean, they have a lot of young talent, but I think the quarterback situation is a huge problem for the Rams. So I would have to go with Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, and the team that they're building right there. But anyway, we'll keep going. You can disagree. Let's talk about this peak thing. I said the Rams have peaked. Now, it's a statement that's based on data, okay? I'm not just saying that because I think that. I really do kind of think there's a reason to believe that. And I don't know how much of that is Stafford and him kind of getting older and kind of being at the end of the season and his body's breaking down. I mean, every player's carrying something by this point in the season. He just got a hand injury last week, if I'm not mistaken. But the Rams started falling off after their loss to the Panthers. That was a big loss. It was right after Thanksgiving. Stafford throws a couple of INTs, and they can't recover from it, okay? More on that later. But then they have a get-right game against the Cardinals. Of course, perfect timing. A couple weeks later, though, they lose again, this time to the Seattle Seahawks. And I'll admit that one was a little bit fluky. You got a backward pass deflected off a helmet, picked up in the end zone. I mean, that was a little bit of a fluky loss there, okay? But then they lost to the Falcons the next week, who have already given them a first-rounder, mind you. So, if you had any motivation to try and beat the Falcons, it was if you beat the Falcons, you could have given yourself a top 10 pick. A top 10 pick next year in the next draft. Crazy, right? Or I guess this year, however you want to think of that. But, of course, they get another get-right game opportunity against the Arizona Cardinals. Nice. Lucky for them, whenever they seem to be falling apart, they get a get-right game against the Arizona stinking Cardinals. No offense, but they then, even against the Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett, the Arizona Cardinals, they're entering the fourth quarter up only 23-20. With the Cardinals leading rusher, by the way, in the entirety of the game, only having 29 yards in the whole game. And they struggled up until the fourth quarter to put that game away. And then last week, the Carolina Panthers, Stafford and the boys in blue barely squeak out a win in the final moments of the game, giving up 31 points to the worst playoff team in the NFL by a country mile. The Panthers were far and away the worst point differential in all of the playoff teams. In fact, they were bad in the whole of the NFL. They were 23rd in the National Football League at negative 69 points in the point differential, meaning points scored versus points scored against me. They squeaked into the playoffs because the Falcons managed to beat the Saints to give them the tiebreaker. And that's the team that the Rams narrowly beat in the final seconds of the game. Stafford, of course, he leaves that game with a little bit of an injury. And you know what's great for the injuries, by the way? I know Paul talked about this yesterday. So I know there's a little bit already out there about the cold and that kind of thing, but nothing feels better on a hand injury like cold and windy, right? I don't know if you saw this, some of the updates here. Stafford, he's going up against what I would call the most opportunistic defense in the National Football League this season. When the opportunity arrives, the Chicago Bears, they find a way to intercept. They find a way to fumble recover. That's just the way that the Bears have been this whole season. They are opportunistic on offense, opportunistic on defense. But Stafford, with his kind of slightly busted up hand, is going into cold, inclement weather. I'm sure you've seen this. It's been flying around. It's already been seen by over 500,000 people on X. So I'm sure you've seen this, but I'll just throw it out there real fast again. Matthew Stafford, last 10 games, outdoors in the rain or snow, 1-9 record. 16 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Rams last 10 games in Chicago, a 2-8 record, 109 point differential. Minus 109 point differential, Current forecast for Sunday afternoon in Chicago, 20 degrees, 18 mile an hour wind gusts, 55% chance of snow. But actually, It's even worse than that. This is more updated data. 17 degrees is the high of the day. The wind's even worse. Now is projected to be between 10 and 20 miles an hour. So wind gusts up to 20 miles an hour, right? Like pretty crazy, okay? But let's talk about the opportunistic park. I know you guys already talked about the weather kind of situation with Paul yesterday. So I'm going to skip out on some of that stuff, but you guys have seen charts like this a million times this season, surely, because I can't imagine being a diehard Bears fan that you guys have not been paying close attention to turnover differential, because it's an unbelievable stat line. But, you know, when I'm thinking opportunistic on both sides of the park, right? Firstly, opportunistic on offense, finding wild, unexpected ways to win from behind in historical fashion. Winning from behind historically well throughout the season. And then again in the postseason last week against the Green Bay Packers, an unbelievable game. I had a buddy who was at the game. I was also texting Paul, of course, who did that video yesterday that you guys watched. Unbelievable game at Soldier Field. Obviously, like, really excited for all the Bears fans out there. But when we talk about opportunistic on defense, I'm really talking about turnovers. I'm really talking about right here. Like, we're all real here, okay? The Bears defense is not the best defense in football. We watched the Houston Texans the other night. Like, I get it, right? I don't think anyone's trying to say the Bears are the best defense in football. But there is one aspect of the Bears defense that they are the best in football, and it is taking advantage of opportunities to turn over the ball, to take away. Then they're doing it, man. Now, you've seen this stat. I don't know if you've seen this next stat, because I kind of figured it out myself. I crunched the numbers on this, okay? So really, to illustrate the absolute absurdity of the Chicago Bears' ability this season to take advantage of a situation and play opportunistic football, look at this, okay? Now, don't try to read it, because you're not going to be able to read all those stats on the sheet. What I want you to see is the sheer number of red circles that I managed to fit on that stupid graphic. Do you know what that is? That is 21 teams in the NFL this season whose total number of turnovers is less than the Bears' turnover margin. That is an unreal stat. There are 21 teams in the NFL whose total number of turnovers are less than the turnover margin, than the turnover differential by the Chicago Bears. That is unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. And I only say all of that to illustrate the point that I'm trying to make, that you've got Matthew Stafford, who's got a busted up hand in the cold and in the wind, and this is no way an ideal situation for a quarterback. If you were going to pick any defense in the NFL you did not want to face when your quarterback's a little banged up, and he's in the cold and he's in the wind and he already doesn't play well in the cold and the wind, it would be the Chicago Bears, who have taken advantage of literally every opportunity under the sun to take away in a football game. So look, I mean, you guys think whatever you want. You tell me what you think in the comments, as always. But when I'm looking at Chicago Bears versus the LA Rams, the only stat line that I think is going to matter in terms of this game is how well Matthew Stafford can do protecting the ball. Because all of the data in the world would suggest Stafford is not going to have a great game. And all of the other data in the world would suggest that the Chicago Bears are going to take great advantage of it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit subscribe if you're looking for any NFC North related news, especially if you're a Bears fan. The Chicago Bears, obviously right now, we are in a Chicago Bears video. So I'm assuming that you're a Chicago Bears fan. But, you know, if you're not, that's cool. You're hate watching Lions fans? Look, man, God loves you too, okay? We do. Really. We do too. We love you too, all right? I'm going to let it go. Appreciate you guys. Have a great night.